When I went down to Virginia a couple of years ago, I met a fireman. Not the kind of fellow, who puts out fires in the house, but a fireman who is on the railroad. He told me that some days he shoveled 15 tons of coal into that firebox, had to keep it level so it would burn right. Well, it turns out this fireman, whose name was Curtis Addison, was the fireman on the train who went by my grandmother's house. That's true. Yeah. Sometimes my cousin and I would go down to his other grandmother's house in Glade Spring. And his other grandmother's house, old Miss Carroll, we called her, that house was closer to the railroad track. And the railroad took a bend by her house. So my cousin and I would stand in her yard and wave at the engineer and the fireman and the caboose fellow. But the fellows in the locomotive would throw lollipops at us. Curtis Addison told me how they would go to Damascus, Virginia, to buy those lollipops for the kids who were standing all along the line. They were dum-dums. No hard sticks. They had that soft thing so you could run with the lollipop in your mouth without your mother yelling at you. But Curtis Addison told me a story. He said one day they were coming through Glade Spring and they were going around that corner, and he was leaning out of the locomotive to watch the track, because of course in a locomotive, in those days, there was no window, and so he'd have to lean out. He wanted to make sure that there were no other cars on the track. There was a switch there. So he's leaning out of the locomotive, and all of a sudden he saw some cars on the track they were on instead of over on the track where they should have been. Well, he yelled out to the engineer, "Shoot them!" And that means slam the brakes on. Well, the engineer slammed the brakes on, and that 55-ton locomotive wheezed to a stop. But not fast enough, he said. The cowcatcher went under a gondola car, and the gondola hit a boxcar, and the boxcar hit another boxcar, and another boxcar. Curtis Addison told me that there were boxcars piled up as high as the telephone pole. He said he got out of the locomotive, walked up to the front to survey all the damage, and the next car they would have hit, if they hadn't stopped where they did, was full of explosives. He said to me, "We'd have hit that, would have been no more Glade Spring. Probably no more Damascus either."